Welcome to the land down under. F1 is in Melbourne and the beautiful Albert Park is our backdrop for the Australian Grand Prix. After the longest flight and the biggest time zone shift of the season, can anyone get the better of Max Verstappen and Red Bull? It's almost time for some answers, but first, welcome to your weekend warm-up. Hello and a warm welcome down to, I think, one of the prettiest paddocks that we come to all season here at Albert Park for the Australian Grand Prix. It's sort of 7 p.m. here. I don't know where you're watching in the world. We're not quite sure what time of day it is or indeed maybe what day it is, but we are here. Sun is setting and a fair few drivers have already left the paddock. Fair few personnel have as well. Alongside me though, sticking this one out with me, Alex Brundle and Barretto. How are we both feeling? And can I just say, disclaimer ahead of this, Alex Brundle has been home to the hotel for a cheeky mid-afternoon nap.
We're 5 seconds into the show.
I know.
And you're
there's
right.
The bus, you are underneath
there's
it.
the bus. And it was worth it because it means I'm sentient to talk about some Formula One around what's going to be a great venue this weekend. And really a mainstay of the championship now, isn't it, Melbourne?
Yeah, I love it. Just my second time here. You're first actually as well, so we'll forgive you the jet-lagged midday nap. Lawrence, how are you doing?
Yeah, really, really good. I feel like it's back to school, even though this isn't the first race of the season. There's a real feel-good vibe. Everyone loves coming here to Melbourne. They have a great time in the city. They have a great time in this pretty special paddock. There's lots of chairs, tables out and about. People feel very comfortable in here. And I think we come to this street track, kind of a little bit unknown, very green. Not a lot of racing happens here outside of this weekend. So I want to see what's going to happen as the weekend ramps up.
A lot of racing this weekend, though. We've got a lot of support classes here, not least, of course, F2, so the track will certainly evolve. Talk to me about Albert Park, because it's pretty low abrasion, softest compounds of tyres we have here as well. What are the teams going to be expecting?
Yeah, well, we're a step softer on compounds after many of the drivers, after the issues at the end of last year's race with the final restart, kind of blamed the stiffness of the compound for those issues. It is such a fast circuit in terms of average speed. You're always going pretty fast around here. A lot of medium speed corners, a lot of bumps, probably the bumpiest venue that we've been to this year so far. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that affects the cars, the various setups, and who is strong and weak around this layout. So another roll of the dice very much in terms of engineering and driver performance.
Yeah, great stuff. And DRS zones as well, plenty of them, overtaking opportunities out there, Lawrence.
Yeah, there's 4 of them. I think the organisers did a great job here. They kind of made a few tweaks over the years to make it a faster circuit, to try and improve overtaking opportunities generally. Adding in an extra DRS zone, 4 around here, kind of gives that little bit extra chance for drivers to try and make that move. And, want to spice up this race a little bit more, and hopefully we'll see a few more overtakes on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, last year's was chaos, wasn't it? So who knows what we're going to be in store for this weekend. Before we look ahead, though, we are going to look back. And Alex Brundle, your first weekend warm-up of the year, that means it's time for a 60-second recap. Take it away of the Saudi Grand Prix.
Sure is. Well, we were well into the Saudi Arabian night when we headed off for the Saudi Grand Prix. It was a great escape from Max Verstappen and a close escape for Lando Norris, who looked for all the world to have jumped the start, but managed to get away with it. The stewards letting him off that one. Charles Leclerc up the inside and then round the outside of Sergio Perez, but it would be relatively short-lived for the Ferrari driver. Perez down the inside of turn 1, snatched back the 1-2 positioning for Red Bull. And then it was a mistake for Lance Stroll, who was unable to return his Aston Martin to the pit lane because it was in the wall in the early stages of the race, leading to a safety car, therefore a pit stop for most of the field. Lewis Hamilton and Lando Norris being notable exceptions who stayed on the medium tyre. Ollie Behrman was getting stuck in, and it didn't take long for Max Verstappen to regain that first position, making the move on Lando Norris. Kevin Magnussen was driving the widest Haas of all time, trying to hold the field back to let Nico Hülkenberg have a free pit stop, which he managed to do and snatch a point for Haas very impressively. There's Hülkenberg in and onto his hard tyres, managed to jump out in front of the rest of the field, but out in front of the field proper was Max Verstappen, who took another win in Jeddah.
Very good, Alex Brundle. Go on, Lawrence.
Anyone would think you're a commentator. So good talking over pitches.
It's when I turn up in vision that everything goes wrong.
How many buses do we want to throw? Alex
Let's see. I'm sure there's a few more to come.
Yeah,
Don't worry.
I have absolutely no doubt. But look, seriously, a great result for Haas. That best of the rest. Those points, those minor points, for P10, P9 are going to be so hard fought, so hard to come by this season. And Nico Hülkenberg and Kevin Magnussen, he wouldn't have done it without him, would it? Getting it done, getting the job done in Saudi.
Yeah, much controversy actually, because you can see from the timing trace that Magnussen slows his pace in the middle of the race to physically hold the midfield back, to give Hülkenberg that opportunity to pit and get out ahead. Was able to do it. Hülkenberg definitely owes him one for that, for sure. But then, the Haas speed on track. I mean, Hülkenberg's only just behind Hamilton in terms of average lap speed. It's an impressive Grand Prix they delivered.
They're turning that one lap pace that we saw last season into race pace as well. I think they certainly are going to spring a surprise for definitely the first half of this season while the development race for the year continues to unfold. I did speak to Nico Hülkenberg earlier on. I asked him about the atmosphere in the team after that result. Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, atmosphere has been positive and good. Like you say, last year here, this was our actually, I think, best result of the season. Good memories about last year and generally in this place. And I think we come here with positive vibes and optimistic feeling. But every weekend you have to do a solid job, make no mistakes, leave nothing out there. We're in a very, very compact and tight midfield. So every session matters and counts. And the heat is on.
The heat is on. And actually that interview earlier on as well was in the blazing sunshine. It's been perfect weather here today. Quite a cool breeze, but blazing hot sunshine. So I think us Brits coming from sort of a winter feel quite at home here. But no, look, Nico Hülkenberg there saying that every single point counts, every session counts for the best of the rest here, Alex. Just how tight is that going to be to get those sort of solitary points towards the P9, P10?
Yeah, it really is, and it's a track that trends super high in terms of stoppages here. 60% since 2015 have been a safety car here in terms of races, so it's a massive opportunity for teams and drivers who'd be looking to snatch a point, who wouldn't normally be in the points, to try and grab one.
And like you say, we could see some chaos, couldn't we? We saw so much last time out. I think only 12 cars finishing that race, so much disruption to the order, and indeed the likes of Zhou snatching points as well. And Hülkenberg too. I think that was his best result of the year here last year, Lawrence.
Yeah, well, someone was saying to me earlier today, it all depends on Lance Stroll for the bottom 5 teams, because if he doesn't finish, they've got a shot at kind of getting those kind of scrappy points, because if the top 5 teams are finishing, they've got such a pace advantage over the rest of the field that it's really hard. So that point, I know we're talking about just one single point, but that can make the difference between like P7, P6 and the constructors at the end of the year. That's how tight it is at the minute. So yeah, like you said, big results can happen. Australia tends to be one where you seem to see one driver kind of nail it and get some big points, and that's why when you kind of keep your nose clean here, we obviously had that accident between the 2 Alpines last year and big points were lost. It can swing the other way as well. And yeah, that's why I love this Grand Prix. You never know what's quite going to happen.
Yeah, for sure. And look, making mistakes is going to be crucial. Ideally, not making them over this weekend as well. Having a clean race, a fair few drivers really emphasising that point to me today. Sauber, the pit stop issues that they are having. I kind of figured that was going to be maybe a relatively easy fix.
Australia.
Thank you very much. He has had a beer or two. I can tell you that from the smell that just wafted past me. Anyway, Sauber, pit stops. I thought that might be a relatively easier fix. They say they're only 95% confident in the pit stops they're going to do this weekend. Can you explain what's going on there, Alex?
Yeah, it's actually quite a complex part of the car, a tiny little part of the car, but a really complex part of the car, the wheel nut. Because of course, if you don't shred the wheel nut, you shred the wheel hub. So it needs to be strong, but only as strong as it needs to be, otherwise you damage something further down the chain. You can't beef them up, they're rotational mass as well, but this was just an absolute disaster for Sauber. Yes, if they manage to fix it, that's great, but they've still got the race pace to find on track, haven't they? And they were miles off, realistically, back in Jeddah.
They were. Valtteri Bottas is not miles off the vibe for this Australian Grand Prix. He is nailing that, while it may not be red-hot action on track for them, red-hot action off for Valtteri, because that Uber car share advert, if you've not seen that yet, give the man an Oscar right now. His entire vibe, mentality down the paddock, the mullet, he's got Zhou wearing a mullet today. he's loving life down here, isn't he?
I would say that advert was some of his finest work, if not his finest work ever, off track or on track. I mean, he properly lent into it. He's properly leaning into the Aussie vibe, the Aussie lifestyle. But I actually think that's kind of bringing the best out of him. Like, he's relaxing off track. He's come into the race weekend, switches back on. He's got this ability to do that. Obviously, he needs to start delivering some results, but a lot of that will depend on the car. He was saying actually earlier, they've got a new front wing here. So that feels like it's one of the first big upgrades that a team's brought into this season, and boy, do they need it.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, you're right. When I did speak to him earlier as well, he was saying, yes, look, I've had a lot of fun this week. There's been some really nice interactions and activations off track, outside of track, but I'm now here to do my job and get that job done. Speaking of an Australian, a real one, not an honorary one, who needs to get the job done this weekend, that's Daniel Ricciardo. A spin for him in Saudi, a pretty difficult start to the year so far, and what a place to want to turn it around as well, Alex.
Yeah, you know, he'll be feeling super at home here, and he's in a different position from someone like Oscar Piastri, who's coming back for their second year in Formula One at their home Grand Prix. Ricciardo knows exactly what it's like to perform in front of your home crowd. And yeah, but he's been sort of beaten by Yuki Tsunoda through the first part of this year, which I don't think anybody had their money on, really. We thought the experience would play through for Ricciardo. It's not been so. And even the team now beginning to say, OK, we're expecting to see some results now come out of Ricciardo. He'll be strong here. He's had a couple of moments here, a couple of bumps and bashes here, but he'll be strong in terms of pace.
And just on his teammate, Yuki Tsunoda as well, Laurent Mekies, team principal, they're looking for him to really start to press on now in his fourth season. And just a word on the future of the team as well in terms of the aerodynamic facilities they're moving into.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that he's maybe putting a little pressure on Yuki, because obviously they're thinking about their driver lineup for next year already. I think Yuki actually stepped up last year. He had a very strong finish, so it's not too much of a surprise that he started this season off on the right foot, because that car, of course, is an evolution of last year's car. They pushed the development all the way to the end of the year. But it's interesting to see how that team develops through the season. When you talk to Laurent Mekies and Peter Bayer, they tell you, wait till mid-season, because that's when the big steps are going to be coming. And you mentioned there, Laura, that they're moving a lot of their facilities over to the Milton Keynes campus where Red Bull are based. They're still talking about being a separate team. They're going to stick within the rules, so that's not cheating. You can have your facilities on the same campus. Haas use the facilities, and Ferrari, it's all cordoned off. You can do that kind of thing. But I think that's going to be a team to really watch carefully about their kind of curve this year, because they could have quite a dramatic one as the season progresses, and they kind of move into that phase of that big development, that kind of step that McLaren made, for example, last year, twice, in fact, because they kind of started this season slightly on the back foot.
Another team that is going to want a steep development curve and a real turnaround in results as well is Alpine. Before we come on to them, let's hear from Pierre Gasly. Well, Pierre, I know it's been a really difficult start to the season. I'm sure you're quite sick of hearing that already, just 3 weekends in. What's the approach for you, the mindset coming in to a fresh race weekend here in Melbourne, sun shining, and there's always great vibes around this track as well?
Well, it's always the same approach. You know, I'm coming here and will give my absolute best for the team and try to seize any opportunities that may come to us. Obviously, the car is going to be the same as Jeddah and Bahrain. We know we're not going to be in a position to really fight at the front, but then we got some testing plan to understand a bit more about our car. And you know, obviously, we'll never forget the Melbourne race of last year, which just proved to be very eventful. So who knows what's going to happen this year, you know? So we got to be on top of our game and see and try to seize any opportunities.
Where, when, and how do you see these improvements coming to this Alpine car? What's the timeline there?
I know you guys want an answer, a precise answer. I'm not going to give you that, but I know the plan. I spent 2 good days at the factory last week in the sim, but also having very good productive meetings with the guys and just, you know, it's take a bit of a step back and have an overview of the first few races and what the car is doing, what are our options and solutions and development, and what's the timeline of it. So we got a plan. You know, obviously, I'm not gonna give confidential information in there, but there'll be changes. How fast it will come, still unsure. I know the guys are working as hard as they can to bring the improvements, because no one is enjoying the position we're in at the minute. But for now, we'll have to be patient and keep keep that energy and try to execute the best weekends we can.
Thank you, Pierre.
Thank
Best
you.
of luck.
Thank you.
Thanks. So Pierre saying a lot without giving me any information whatsoever. He was quite clear in that. And look, understandably, they are going to be defensive. They're going to be closed up here. Double DNF for them, of course, in that chaotic restart at the Australian Grand Prix last time out. Alex, what do you think they can do here?
I don't think they can do much, to be honest. Outgoing sporting personnel there, and I think that's a reason why Pierre might be being so cagey, have given us a feel for the issues with that car. It's too heavy, a legacy of potentially some crash testing issues, doesn't make enough rear downforce, which is the absolute key to making these ground effect cars work. And that's the issue they've got. And without those two magic keys, they're not going to be able to unlock performance until a next set of upgrades, or they manage to strip some weight off the thing.
We'll see how Alpine continue to develop. Lawrence, coming to you, Alex Albon, of course, he was going so well. It was such a promising weekend for him here last time before perhaps his biggest mistake of the season, really.
Only mistake,
just
maybe.
losing it. Just lost the car in a point-scoring position. Do you think they will be as competitive here with the new philosophy for their car?
Oh, it's tricky because Alex was just talking about Alpine being overweight. The Williams is expected to be overweight as well. Sorry, believed to be overweight at the minute. And that's difficult, I think, because they've obviously pushed the development of that car so deep through the winter, and they're paying a little bit of the price of that. But actually, when they start to unlock the potential of the car, the curve is higher. And I think when you're trying to shave weight off the car, it's slightly easier. It's maybe cheaper lap time, or it's slightly more freer lap time to get. So do I think they're going to be good here? Yeah, I actually think they're going to be good. I think Alex Albon is performing very strongly this year. I think Logan's he's got to step it up this weekend and prove that he can kind of be up there with them. But yeah, I think Alex can be there and kind of fighting on the fringes of the points and then taking that opportunity if, you get that Lance Stroll moment.
I don't want to say this because I'm sitting P2 in the standings, but I have a smug Alex Brundle.
It was all the bus throwing early in the broadcast. It's come back round to get you.
Well, slightly, but I've got another bus lined up for you because yes, you are sitting atop of the F1 fantasy table. You have pinned some hopes on Williams as well. I too have Alex Albon in my...
Hang on.
I know, it's coming. I too have Alex Albon in my team. He triple captain.
Yeah.
He triple captain. So, come on, I've not even played one of those yet.
Don't
what are
blame
they called?
the player.
Chips. Are they chips? I've not played one of those, sorry. Chips, producer Joe has informed my jet-lagged brain. So you tripled, but you're banking on Williams in that team. Can you continue that for this weekend?
I think Jeddah wasn't a fair test with Williams. They had a lot of electrical issues with the dashboard, and it's more a vote of confidence in Alex than it is a vote of confidence in Williams, to be honest. I think he's a guy in a Grand Prix like this who can pick up some scrappy points, and scrappy points is what I was going for with my pick for Alex Albon.
Love that. Lawrence, you've banked on Aston Martin. How did that work out for you last time?
F1 fancy at the minute. I had a bit of a shocker in Saudi. I looked at quite...
Where are you in the standings?
Like 7th.
Just a triple DRS, the favourite, and then that's how you get to the top of the standings.
Yeah, but I had some
Big
bad
price.
advice from Jolyon Palmer at the start of the year. And seeing as I was pushing him all the way last year, I kind of got spooked. So he got in my head. I've made some bad choices. I put both Aston Martins, Fernando and Lance, in my team. I got a staggering number of minus points in Saudi. So, yeah, the less we talk about that, the better. But you know what? Aston Martin, good on a Saturday, less good on a Sunday, unless Fernando Alonso seems to be at the wheel. I'm not sure what to expect of them here, because obviously Fernando got that podium last year. Lance got P4.
Yeah.
I think to expect the same sort of result this year is going to be difficult unless you have that kind of chaos that we've talked about, especially into that turn 1, turn 2 sequence. So that car is quicker. I think Fernando was saying 7 tenths quicker in quali in Bahrain, 9 tenths quicker in Saudi versus the previous year. So they are making gains. Whether or not they've made enough gains coming here, I don't know.
You've done yourself down. You are actually P6 in the F1
what
fantasy
place?
standings. So
I want P1. I've been fighting for P1, like P6, P7.
Alex is going to drop down the standings this weekend because he's got, unless you pay more chips,
Your
Your development curve is steep right now.
secret
It's
bank-
going to plateau.
Secret bank of chips. I'm like cheating at Monopoly, being the banker.
Yeah, you heard it here first. I'm just playing a very cool, calm, collected game. Talking of points, we'll take a look now at how the points are stacking up in our drivers and constructor standings for this season so far. And a funny quirk of this, we have 3 Ferrari drivers in the top 10. Lance Stroll just knocking on the door, Nico Hülkenberg also with P12 and P11 for those two. But Ollie Behrman, P10 overall. What a debut that was for him, Alex. How difficult is that as a racing driver to step in to the high pressure of that drive?
Oh, it's hugely difficult, and that step into a Formula One car is a massive step. And driving one in race conditions with everything on the line like that, I think he did himself a lot of good there. And it's going to be interesting to see who we end up with behind the wheel of that Ferrari again this weekend. But a fantastic debut for Behrman. If he's not in the Ferrari that weekend, Prema better be getting their target vinyls out and putting them on the rear wing, because he's about to sit on the Formula 2 grid as somebody who's proved that they can make it in a Formula 1 car.
Yeah, great stuff. What a debut it was from him. But Carlos Sainz is here, ready, raring to go, and hopefully he's going to be in that seat come Sunday as well. Let's hear now from Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz.
Carlos, great to see you back. How are you feeling, and how challenging was it to get back in the car for this weekend after that surgery?
I'll let you know tomorrow when I get back in the car and the G-forces throw me around a bit, no? But I feel ready. I've done as much as possible to recover, and you cannot imagine the effort and the logistics and things that I've done to be fit for this race. Progress, I'm very happy with all the progress I've made, and now, as I said, it's time to jump in the car and see how I feel.
What you've had in the first couple of races is kind of P2 just behind Red Bull. Is that encouraging that maybe Ferrari are on the right direction now, and do you get that kind of impression you've got a lot of headroom and headspace to clear?
Yeah, I have no doubt that we are working in the right direction. Really, I'm fully convinced, and I think we are doing a good job not only in the last 2 races, but since now 6-7 months in terms of development, in terms of direction for the factory to push in. We have a very clear idea on where we want to go and how to achieve that. So that is a good thing. Obviously, we are not speaking about a 10th in the race, but more about 3-4 tenths, which is a significant step forward we need to do. But we are all aware of that, and we are all pushing as much as possible to close that gap as soon as possible.
Great stuff. Good luck this weekend.
We know there is a gap to Red Bull, but it's certainly smaller than it was at this time last season. So Ferrari are in the fight, certainly one lap pace, race pace looking good for them. That was an issue, of course, throughout last season. Lawrence, coming to you, can Ferrari challenge Red Bull, do you think, here?
I think they're pretty bullish about their chances this weekend. And when I say that, I don't mean they think they're going to literally take the fight to Red Bull and push Max Verstappen and Checo all the way. But I do think they're in that kind of barrier or that kind of area where if a mistake happens, if there's a pit stop issue, I do think that they can pounce. And I think what Ferrari are seeing is that from race to race, that car is getting better. Their understanding of that car is getting better. And they're in a better spot to really push on through the season rather than kind of tail off a little bit as they've tended to do in previous years. And this circuit, on their simulations, what I'm told, has looked really good for them. So if that can translate to the track, I think could be looking really good.
Great stuff. Oscar Piastri, of course, another Aussie driver here, homeboy, local hero as well, grid kid to Formula One car. It's an amazing story. Will he continue that story, Alex Brundle, by becoming the first ever Australian to officially, legally, brackets, stand on the F1 podium?
Well, it's going to be an interesting weekend for McLaren. They jet lag strike one. They looked heavy on downforce back in Jeddah, to the point where Lewis Hamilton was taken aback by the speed of the McLaren through the first sector, but they were losing positions in a straight line. It's going to be an interesting race of truth for them. Does that strategy work? Do they try and do the same thing again? They look to have the same tendency of car that they had last year, the very high speed, high downforce delivery, but they seem to have lost a bit of efficiency relative to the rest of the field here, which is the step back they've made from challenging for race wins.
Their straight line speed in Jeddah, though, the DRS to try and get around Lewis Hamilton was just non-existent. And Oscar's social media afterwards said that he was a Mercedes rear wing expert by this point, which is, yeah, great stuff. We'll see what kind of setup they bring here to this track. A track, I think, that is pretty similar in some characteristics, certainly, to what we saw in Jeddah.
Yeah, you don't have the terminal speed here, and it's one of the reasons why Ferrari looks so strong. They were super quick in Jeddah in the medium speed corners, as were McLaren. And so McLaren could be relatively stronger. I think everybody else but Red Bull will be relatively stronger here, as they're faster in the medium speed and don't have that terminal speed loss.
We actually sat down and spoke with Oscar Piastri ahead of this one. He'll be talking about racing here on home soil. Of course, he picked up his first ever points in an F1 car here last year after that chaotic restart. We'll be speaking to him. You'll be seeing that in the pre-race show, and he'll be on the Beyond the Grid podcast as well. Lawrence, Mercedes, Di Resta has been pinched from Ferrari. He'll be heading there, won't he? What do you make of their chances here, though?
Well, actually, I think Mercedes has been a little bit more confident coming here. Lewis was really down when he was talking in Saudi about where the car was. There was chatter about how difficult it is to drive. Today, he seemed like a different driver. He had that spring in his step. He kind of had that glint in his eye again. And actually, he was kind of suggesting, actually, things aren't as bad as maybe he was suggesting they were in Saudi. Whether or not they're going to be able to take the fight to, say, a Ferrari and McLaren, because Alex was saying those two cars are looking so good around here, track specific. But I think there's a little bit more optimism heading here. You mentioned Di Resta. That's a move that will see him join the team in 2025. But that's a look to 2026, because that's already what Mercedes are looking at. When the new rules come in, they know if they want to make a big step, they've got to look forward to that. So they're kind of getting their house in order, getting their technical team set, and kind of reshaping it into this new era.
Yeah, interesting, isn't it, to see as we progress closer to the 2026 new regulations, of course. Let's hear now from the Mercedes drivers.
Hey, George, Lewis, question for both of you, really. Do you get the idea that the car that you've got this year is more potential in it versus the last 2 years, or is it another evil sister, potentially?
Yeah, I think definitely. I think you've only got to look at the potential and the performance we showed in FP1 and 2 in the last 2 races. We were genuinely quick, and the performance went away from us into qualifying. We have some ideas why that may have been, and it's so close out there between the 4 teams after Red Bull, so it can easily swing.
It's definitely not the evil sister or anything like that. I think we have I do think we have an amazing car. There's a lot of potential in it, and I think we just haven't maximized it at the moment through setup, through ultimately mistakes, and we're obviously not happy with the performance of those first couple of races. But I think there's a lot more potential in it that we just haven't quite extracted yet. So that's what everyone's focus is on, just trying to understand the car. And we're hoping this weekend is a step forward. There's a huge amount of work that's gone on. Like, everyone's heads are down in the numbers, and I feel positive for this weekend. And we've had 2 not such great races, but there's a long way ahead.
Well, there we go. We'll see how Mercedes go. Wonderful shots there of Melbourne Walk and Lewis entering the track. It's one of the most unique and wonderful characteristics of this race. And I'll tell you what, Lewis goes down an absolute storm here. I saw him earlier being chased by fans out of here, but he looked incredibly relaxed and stopped and smiled for all of them as well, signed bits and bobs and had photos. So we'll see if Mercedes can translate those good vibes here in the paddock out onto some speed on the track. Red Bull, the ones to beat, undoubtedly. Alex, Max Verstappen, it's metronomic now in how perfect, relentlessly perfect he is proving to be. Can anyone stop him? And how difficult is it to maintain that standard?
I think it's a snowball effect. You get out front, you can manage the tyre, you manage the temperature of the tyre, which is so important, especially here with the softer compounds. And then you have efficiency, you move forward, you don't grain or damage it. But that being said, I do think they're going to have a fight on their hands here, particularly in qualifying, especially from Ferrari, maybe from McLaren. And I think the challenge really will come if anybody who can get ahead of them in the early laps of this race. It is a tricky racetrack to overtake. That's why DRS zones have continually been added to this layout. So if somebody can put a storming qualifying performance in, I'm looking at you, Charles Leclerc.
I thought you meant me. And I was like, I've only driven an F4 car. I don't think I can possibly step into an F1 car around Albert Park. I'll give it a go. I have run around this track, albeit quite slowly. Anyway, carry on.
I'm looking at you, Charles Leclerc, who just left
right,
the paddock.
Perfect.
I think he could be the one, maybe, to put a Ferrari ahead of the 2 Red Bulls.
Yeah, we'll see. Max Verstappen with 2 pole positions so far this season. They'll be looking to stop him getting a 3rd. Sergio Perez, he's doing everything right at the moment, isn't he, Lawrence?
Yeah, 2 P2s to start the year. He definitely feels a lot more comfortable with the car, and he needs that head in here, because do you remember how much of a shocker he really had last year, spinning? Qualifying was really difficult for him. He just couldn't get comfortable with the car. He comes here with renewed confidence, feels like he can really push the car on the limit, and he needs to have a good result. And I kind of feel like he's probably going to back that Max Verstappen up and get a 1-2 this weekend. I think that's kind of the way it's going at the minute. He's kind of in that groove.
Third 1-2 for Red Bull in a row. And actually, I saw a pretty incredible stat earlier. I know we're sort of counting back, and so Max will be looking for his 10th in a row. But actually, if you look before Singapore as well, Max Verstappen has won 19 of the last 20 Grand Prix. Utter dominance, relentless dominance. It's incredible to see. Let's take a look before we say goodbye at how the weekend is shaping up. Here is your schedule. We'll be on air to build up to FP1 at 12:15, an hour of practice there with our post-show as well, of course. 3:45, building up to FP2 and our coverage there, and of course our post-show too. Then again, 12:15 for FP3 on Saturday, building up to our third hour of running before 3:30 p.m. for our pre-qualifying show. Our post-qualifying show coming immediately after that hour of action for pole position, and then 2 p.m. Sunday, race day for the Australian Grand Prix. Wherever you are in the world, please do set your alarms, get up, come and join us for that one. And a warm welcome to Ariana Bravo, who has joined us. Ariana, how are you doing? How's the jet lag? We're all sort of blaming any broadcasting mistakes we do make on that, so you'll feel free to do the same.
I'll do the same. I'll absolutely do the same. I feel okay today, but I can see that I'm starting to flag a little bit, but we're just going to roll with it. Adrenaline gets you through, right?
I think, well, I hope so. I'm hoping.
Let's see.
What have you been up to today? Because there was an amazing moment out on track earlier on and you were there, weren't you?
Yes, so we had the Welcome to the Country ceremony, which we see every year here at Albert Park, and so incredible to see. It's the first time I was actually able to go onto the grid and see it, and it's basically a ceremony done by the Bungarang Land Council, who are the traditional custodians of the land on which the Grand Prix is held, and you'll see images of it. It was so special. We had the tribe doing singing and also doing the smoke ceremony, and that is very special to see, and it's meant to have cleansing qualities and get rid of bad spirits. Stefano got involved, went and put his face in the smoke as well, and it's really quite special to witness, I have to say.
Yeah, I love that. What a warm welcome then.
Yeah,
from
an honour.
Yeah, absolutely, from the Australian Grand Prix here, and we are so excited ahead of this weekend. With that in mind, it's time for predictions, and Alex Brundle, by way of tradition of throwing you under a bus in this weekend warm-up, here's another one. Predictions first, please.
Is that 4? I'm still counting.
I think it's about 5 or 6 at this point.
Verstappen, Perez, because I'm going first, and then Leclerc.
Okay. Really bold and spicy one there from Alex Brundle. My God. Lawrence Barretto.
Curveball.
I mean, it's hard to disagree with that, isn't it? I think it's going to be a Red Bull 1-2. I think Max is going to just fend off Checo, and Charles, because Carlos is going to probably have a bit more of a struggle this weekend. It's going to be tougher for him in the car. Even if that Ferrari is going to be strong, I still think Charles is probably going to end up having the edge. So that's what I think the podium's going to be. I can't see any different.
Riveting, guys, thanks. Producer Joe, really unimpressed in my ear as well. Ariana, go on, save the day.
So yeah, I've basically been brought in just to spice this up. Okay, I'm still going to say Verstappen first though, because I don't think I can go that rogue. I'm going to say Charles Leclerc second, and I'm going to go wildcard Lewis Hamilton podium.
What? Oh, I like
These two
that.
were so boring.
I enjoyed that podium.
I thought we're trying to predict the result though, aren't we?
But it could happen.
Yeah, but
it could happen.
Bottas for the win, Laura. Bottas for the win.
Imagine Bottas winning. Imagine Bottas winning the Australian Grand Prix. I think they'd make him an actual.
Going rogue now.
No, I'm not going.
I was going to say, this is out of control suddenly.
No, this show is falling apart. I am going to predict, though, we will see a Max Verstappen win.
Bold, Laura.
I know. I am going to say, I'm going to agree with the Charles Leclerc P2.
Okay.
I'm going to say Oscar Piastri on the podium, the first ever Australian to do so, and just in his second season as a homeboy here in Melbourne. That is my prediction. Thank you all very much. Alex Brundle, Lawrence Barretto, and Ariana Bravo. This show has just gone to the dogs in the last few minutes. We're gonna go, and we're gonna get some sleep, and we will see you for the rest of this weekend here at the Australian Grand Prix. Thanks for watching. We will see you tomorrow.
Welcome to Melbourne.
My home race. It's good to be back.